Hi guys, welcome to our channel. If you're new here or if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. I'm Emmy from the Crazy Bookish Asians, and for today I thought I'd talk about something that I think a lot of us readers go through, and that is a reading slump. So basically this video I'm going to talk about ways how I get out of a reading slump, and it's basically 5 tips. So what I'm going to talk about first is, I guess, how I get on a reading slump personally anyway. And when I talk about reading slump, I don't mean when you're just busy, you know, that you don't have time to read, because I feel like that's like everyone goes through that, you know what I'm saying? No matter what you do in life, where you are in your journey, you know, as a reader, like we all go through days or sometimes even months when, you know, you just don't have the time to read. Maybe you just had a baby or something like that. So that's not the one I'm discussing about, because it's, yeah, like with that one, basically it's just finding the time to do it, right? So, but when I say reading slump, it's when you just have no desire to read after certain things happen. And with me, those two things are usually when I've read a really bad book that it just makes me angry almost why I spent time reading that book. And you know, it kind of makes me lose hope. Sometimes I'm like, why did I read this? And you know, I think I need a break, or you just after something like that, I just can't go on sometimes. And an example of that book, which I've talked about in my 3 popular books that I hated in that video, I'm gonna link it down below. I talked about this book, Icebreaker. I rarely DNF books, but that one I did DNF. But even then, I felt like even reading 20% of that book kind of sucked the desire of reading out of me. So that's an example. And another example is when I've just been reading too much. Like there's some, it's rare, really rare for me to read more than 2 books at once, but sometimes it would happen that I'd be reading 4 books at once, and then I mean I would eventually finish them, but after that, like my mind is just like, oh my gosh, like it's just after that, after those kind of experiences, it's like, oh, I just can't do it. I can't read any more books, which is really silly, right? Because reading is, especially for an adult who's not in school, it's something that we do for pleasure, I would like to think. So yeah, so those are usually the 2 instances when a reading slump happens to me. So how do I get out of it? So I have 5 tips, or like 5 things that I do anyway. And number 1 is just to kind of let it happen. Just let go. So when I say let go, I mean if you get to that point where you just really don't want to read, I don't see the point of forcing yourself to do it. So what I would do is just watch movies. That's one thing that I like to do aside from reading. I mean I do have other stuff that I do, like I like knitting and sewing and those kind of stuff, but those ones, I feel like with those kind of hobbies, I still kind of have to think. So with watching movies, it's almost like reading, because you enter another world, but it's more mindless. Like it's easier to do because you literally just sit there and you enjoy the story. And yeah, like I would watch a new movie or an old movie, like watching old movies I really love, which is mostly horror, I have to admit. So yeah, like Insidious, The Ring, those kind of movies, those are like my comfort movies. So that's the first tip. And the second one, I actually made a list, you guys. I usually don't do this for any of my videos, even on my other channel, my other art channel. So yeah, so next one that I do, is aside from watching movies, I also watch Booktube. So watching Booktube doesn't necessarily make me want to read right away, but what it does is it's nice for me to see other people so passionate about reading. And sometimes when they're really passionate about a book, I'll just make a note of it, and you know, like maybe when my desire comes back, that's what, you know, when I'll get the book too. But in terms of booktubers that I love watching when I'm on a reading slump, it's, you know, the usual big ones like Carrie Can Read and Jack Edwards. I also like watching Haley Pham. I know she started off as a lifestyle blogger, but since the pandemic, I think when she started making book videos, I really enjoy those because I find we kind of have the same taste in books. And also Destiny Sidwell, she's another one, another big one that I watch. But I also love reading classics, so I also watch Benjamin McAvoy and Jennifer Brooks, who unfortunately she passed away a few months ago, which is really sad. But her videos, especially the old ones when she talks about classical books, it is just so nice. Like even sometimes when I have no desire to read what she would recommend, it's just so nice to hear her talk and be passionate about classical literature from ancient Greek to well, especially Victorian. She talked a lot about the Victorian, but her recent videos talk more about like current publications. But yeah, like in terms of classics, Benjamin and Jennifer Brooks. So yeah, like when I'm on a reading slump for sure, like, or even when I just want to take a break from reading, I watch those booktubers. So yeah, so I hope some of these booktubers will also help you get out of a reading slump. And then another thing, or the third thing that I do is read from the authors I love. So that's one thing that for me I find is a surefire way of getting out of a reading slump. Is you know, especially if I've just read a really bad book, I would go back to my comfort authors like Stephen King for sure, and who else? He's the only one I can think of off the bat. Yeah, also Michael Ondaatje. Yeah, like sometimes he still has some books I haven't read, but yeah, like his books I really love, and his books of poetry. So yeah, so read from authors that you love. And the fourth one is reread a favorite book. Well, yeah, so yeah, like it's a comfort read. Again, it's like watching a comfort movie, right? So if yeah, like if you just have no desire to read, what I would suggest is even just at the end of the night, after you've had, you know, your busy day and, you know, you just can't be bothered to do anything else, I feel like that time before bedtime, for me anyway, is like the perfect time to just really kind of unwind and read a book that I love. I find that's a surefire way of getting me out of a slump, especially like, let's say, you know, you just read like a really hard text the previous day, like a classic, and then you're like, oh, you know, I can't. But I suggest rereading a favorite book, because it's even though you already know the story, a lot of these books, especially if you love them, they would have different meanings in your life depending on the moment that you read it, right? So even if it's something that you read already like 3 times, 4 times, you know, I find, like with me anyway, it still helps me get out of a reading slump. Again, Stephen King is good for that for me, because I really like that genre too. And I've talked about this ad nauseum in my other video, my favorite books of all time, and also in real life. But The Secret History by Donna Tartt, yeah, that's like those 2 books. And actually any other books that I really love, like you know, J.D. Salinger's Catcher in the Rye. Yeah, those ones would get me out of a reading slump for sure. And my number 5 thing is, oh, okay, so for the 5th one, sometimes you just get really lucky, and you know, after you're in a slump and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna read a new book, sometimes by a new author, just to kind of jar you out of the thing. Oh, you know what, something I forgot to say, aside from reading from the authors you love, is also reading from genres that you love. It's like if you like reading classics, then, you know, just keep reading classics, I guess. And not keep reading, but let's say you're reading like a like a thriller that you didn't like, so go back to classics. If that's something that you really love, or you know, you read a classics that you didn't like and then you love romance, so go back to the genre that you love. And again, it's that whole idea of a comfort read, right? So even if it's by a new author, I find if it's a genre that you know you're gonna enjoy, yeah, it's something that will help you for sure, I hope. Okay, and then the last thing I'm going to talk about are the books that I read that got me out of a reading slump. And these ones are really, sometimes they were just luck of the draw, and sometimes they were recommended by people, maybe from YouTube or like people I know in real life. So this is in no particular order. Okay, The Alchemist. This one was recommended by a co-worker, and he recommended this to me during the time in my life where actually I wasn't even reading much. Like, I think I was reading a book a month during that time, but he told me to read this, The Alchemist. I think that everyone knows about this book, and yeah, for sure after this I just kept hounding him for other recommendations, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like I love this book so much. So that's one. And this one, John Irving, Cider House Rules. I actually don't know who recommended this book to me, but I read this before I even saw the movie with Tommy Maguire. But oh my gosh, like this one I kind of devoured. And yeah, again, this was in a time in my life where I wasn't reading much. I can't even remember, when did I read this? Yeah, it's a while. Like, this copy is kind of tattered. But yeah, I don't hear a lot about John Irving's books in social media nowadays. I don't know if I'm just not maybe watching the right people, but this was such a good book. Highly recommend. So these are my recommendations to you in case you stumble into this video. And you know, like I know we all have different tastes, but I hope something here might help you. Next one is Angela's Ashes. This one I think I saw on a TV show. Someone recommended it. So, and this kind of really started me on reading autobiographies, I think, after reading this. And this one I've read a few times after the initial reading, because it's very inspiring. Frank McCourt's story about his life, the poverty that his family went through, but you know, the fact that they, you know, he still had hope and just strived to have a better life. So inspiring for sure. Okay, and next one, Silence of the Lambs. Oh my gosh, this one. So this was my first Thomas Harris book, and I feel like after that it was just like I ended up reading a lot of his work afterwards. So again, at this time I was reading, I can't even remember what genre I was reading a lot of, and then I just got kind of sick of it. I was like, oh, I need to switch genres, right? So yeah. Oh, that's another thing too I didn't mention in terms of getting out of a reading slump, is switching to a different well, no, I did mention it. I did, right? Oh my god, I'm losing it. Anyways, yeah, Silence of the Lambs. Very, very good. Even if you've seen the movie, the book is really well done. And then this one is the Harry Potter set. This is the box set I originally got. But I have all the other books. But this one, this was just such a fun read. And at this time, I wasn't really reading YA or like middle grader books, you know. But this one I actually discovered because at that time, I think the CEO of Chapters Indigo, Heather Reisman, I think that's her name, she recommended it on a TV morning, like a morning talk show. So I was like, oh, you know, that's interesting. And also at that time, I just had my kid, I think. Oh no, I don't know what I'm saying, but I know this was during a time when I was really busy in life. So, and I was like, oh, this looks like it would be an easy read, and it was. Like, I kind of flew through the whole thing so quickly. Like, I think this box set I probably finished in like 2 days. Yeah. So, and this one, Twilight. Oh my gosh, this will always have a special place in my heart because this one, in terms of like YA romance, like yeah, this kind of introduced me to the genre. And not just YA romance, I feel like, you know, this and Hunger Games and the Cinder series by Melissa, yeah, like this was the book that started it. And again, at that time when I was going through a slump, that's when oh my god, what was I reading a lot of at that time? I can't even remember. But yeah, it was also at that phase where I wasn't really reading a lot. So, and this book got me back into reading. And the last but not the least, this one is actually the book that just kind of started again my whole love for reading. Last year I read more than 100 books, which is really rare for me, and I don't think I've ever read that much, even in university. But I started watching this YouTuber, I can't remember his name, talking about the most disturbing books or something like that. And so I was like, I read this I think end of December, beginning of January, and after that it was just, that's it just kind of started my journey to reading constantly. And knock on wood, it's still going on right now. So this I read in yeah, like end of end of December I started reading it, and then finished it January, beginning of January. So the 2023 so far, that's been my best reading year, and it's because of this book, I think. Yeah, so definitely got me out of a reading slump, and I think that is it. Oh my gosh. Okay, I hope this video made sense. How long have I been talking? Okay, 17 minutes. That's not bad. As always, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to comment down below. I know I always say this at the end of our videos, but we really do appreciate everyone who's taken the time to comment, and those who've liked or disliked. This just kind of helps us push our videos out there, because we're such a small channel. So we'd really appreciate it if you guys just let us know if you're liking or not liking the videos. You know, if you have any idea of like what kind of videos you want to see from us, please feel free to say it. Okay, and I hope you're having a great day wherever you are. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Okay, bye.